They say X sells, but in 2025, it's no longer about selling lust. It's about selling headlines, selling shares, selling moral outrage in exchange for market penetration. So let's talk about Calvin Klein, the brand that made tight white briefs a cultural landmark, the brand that doesn't whisper, it moans. And when the rest of the world zigged towards safe, inclusive, brand-safe storytelling, Calvin Klein zagged into the gray area between art and exploitation. This isn't a story about underwear. This is about manipulation, memory, and the mechanics of modern marketing. Let's rewind. In the early 90s, Calvin Klein was already a household name. But in 1995, the brand dropped an ad campaign that looked like it belonged on the dark web. Young models in wood-paneled basements asked provocative questions by off-camera voices. The whole thing felt wrong, and it worked. The ad sparked public outcry. US senators called for federal investigations. And yes, the Justice Department actually looked into whether these ads were breaking child pornography laws. Let me say that again, a fashion brand was investigated by the DOJ, and they got exactly what they wanted. Everyone was watching. No charges were filed, but you know what was filed. A spike in sales. The year following the controversy, Calvin Klein's underwear line fronted by Marky Mark Wahlberg saw a nearly 40% lift in revenue. Based on a report by Women's Wear Daily, the brand's retail sales jumped to over $1.4 billion in 1996. People didn't just forgive, they bought in. Now, fast forward to 2019. Bella Hadid, millennial lit girl, makes out with a virtual influencer named Little Miquela. You heard that right. A real model kissing a CGI robot. It was artificial, glossy, uncanny. The backlash was immediate. People accused Calvin Klein of queerbaiting using LGBTQ+ imagery without supporting LGBTQ+ communities. Others said the brand was trivializing real relationships by replacing a queer narrative with code. But guess what? According to Business Insider, the campaign led to a 24% spike in digital engagement within 12 days. That's likes, comments, tags, quote tweets. Calvin Klein didn't just break the fourth wall, they shattered it, digitized it, and streamed it back to your algorithm. Now here's where we bring in some theory. The elaboration likelihood model of persuasion says people process ads in two ways, centrally and peripherally. Central means you're evaluating the actual content, the fabric, the stitching, the quality. Peripheral. That's when your brain says, I don't know what this ad means, but damn, it looks sexy. Calvin Klein doesn't want you thinking, they want you feeling. They want your subconscious craving the lifestyle, the identity, the validation. The ad isn't saying buy our underwear. The ad is saying this is who you could be. But here's where it gets trickier. In 2020, Calvin Klein went full social justice. They launched a pride campaign featuring Jari Jones, a black trans plus-size model. It was inclusive. It was bold. It was exactly the kind of move brands were making during the pandemic era, reckoning on race and gender. And yes, it was celebrated, but it also drew criticism. People started digging. Where was the queer leadership behind the scenes? Was this genuine advocacy or just another rainbow-washed cash grab? Turns out a lot of it was performance. Still, it paid. www.diddle reported that Calvin Klein's Pride Month collection saw a 32% year-over-year boost in revenue that June. Because in the end, even when you get called out, if people are talking, you're winning. Let's zoom out. Why does this keep working? One word, attention. In today's economy, attention isn't just a metric, it's the market. The attention economy tells us that in a world flooded with content, the most valuable thing is focus and controversial advertising. It hacks the algorithm because hate clicks count the same as love clicks. Outrage shares just as fast, maybe faster than admiration, and brands know that. You know who else knows that? Politicians. In fact, political advertisers have been running this playbook longer than fashion brands. By 2020, more than 70% of political ads on television were using negative or fear-based messaging, based on reporting from the New York Times. That's not a flaw in the system, that is the system. Calvin Klein just added better lighting and abs. Here's the part no one wants to admit. We love being shocked. We say we hate it, but we don't look away, and brands. They see our eyes. They read the data. The question is, does it last? Well, maybe not always. In 2023, Calvin Klein launched a campaign in South Korea featuring topless male models in subway ads. Activists pushed back, saying the ads were too sexualized for public spaces. Within weeks, the city forced the ads to be taken down. The brand apologized, but their TikTok campaign featuring behind-the-scenes footage from the shoot went viral, over 100 million views. The campaign had a second life on your phone, and that's the point. In 2025, the billboard is just bait. The controversy isn't the mistake, it's the strategy. The backlash isn't an obstacle, it's part of the funnel. Let's be clear, this isn't about good or bad, this is about effective. Controversy is predictable, manipulable, profitable. You may be outraged by a Calvin Klein campaign. You may write a tweet, post a story, even boycott the brand. But somewhere in the back of your mind, the name sticks, the logo lingers, and the next time you walk past the CK store, you might just stop just to look. And that right there is the conversion. Not when you buy, but when they rent space in your mind for free. That's not advertising, that's psychology. So the next time someone tells you say excels, correct them. Say, no sex starts the conversation. Controversy keeps it going, and attention closes the deal. That's the business.